Sandy, Isaias, Floyd, Gloria, and Carol. Names of just a few of the powerful storms that have impacted Long Island over the years. And there's no doubt we're going to add more names to that list in the future, maybe even this year. I'm Bill Corbell, and along with my fellow Newsday meteorologist Rich Von Olen, we're going to take a look at the upcoming hurricane season and what you can do to prepare should one come your way. And it looks like it could be pretty busy.
Yep, headed our way this year, another season, Bill. And, well, hurricane season in the Atlantic could be very active. June 1st marks the start of the hurricane season. And because of extremely warm ocean temperatures and favorable winds, it's likely to be very active this season. In fact, the director of the National and Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has said this season is looking to be an extraordinary one. You can see, again, the predictions for this year. 17 to 25 named storms, 8 to 13 hurricanes, and 4 to 7 major hurricanes, which means winds of 111 miles per hour or more. Here is the list of storm names in the Atlantic for this year. If we go past the W storm, William, well, then we start using the Greek alphabet. There are 6 lists of storm names that are rotated every 6 years. Now, if a storm is especially damaging, its name is actually removed from the rotation.
Last year certainly was a busy one with 20 storms, 7 were hurricanes, and that continued an ominous trend of super active seasons in the Atlantic, with 3 of the busiest on record occurring the last 4 years, topped off by an unbelievable 30 storms in 2020. The one question we can't answer just yet is, will we be hit by a hurricane this year? Now, thankfully, Rich, it doesn't happen all that often. We've only had 5 hurricanes hit Long Island since 1950. The last one was Gloria, and that occurred in September of 1985, a long time ago. Gloria briefly reached Category 4 strength, a major hurricane with winds gusting over 140 miles per hour as it passed the Bahamas. But fortunately, as it came up the coast, it weakened to a Category 1 storm as the center passed over eastern Nassau and western Suffolk. Still, the damage was extensive. There wasn't much rain, and because it hit low tide, coastal flooding was less than it could have been. The main impact were the winds that gusted to 85 miles per hour at MacArthur Airport. 2/3 of Lilco customers lost power. That's roughly 700,000 customers. I remember walking around my neighborhood after the storm, and I couldn't believe how many trees had come down. All in all, there were 11 deaths caused by Gloria. But remember, it doesn't take a hurricane to cause tremendous damage. And we need look no further than Superstorm Sandy 12 years ago.
In terms of sheer impact, Hurricane Sandy ranks right up there with the worst storms to ever hit Long Island. And it wasn't even a hurricane when it hit us. Sandy formed in the Western Caribbean on October 22nd, then intensified near Cuba to a Category 3 major storm, but then weakened slightly to a Category 1 storm as it moved up the coast before making a sharp left turn east of Virginia, and then made landfall in central New Jersey the evening of the 29th. The slow movement, extremely large size, and hurricane force winds sent a wall of water towards Long Island, which, combined with a full moon and high tide, produced unprecedented flooding and beach erosion. The pounding waves formed a new inlet between the Atlantic and Belport Bay. Tens of thousands of homes were damaged or destroyed. Freeport had an 8-foot storm surge. Kings Point on the Sound was closer to 9 feet. Rainfall was not much of a factor, but the winds gusted to 94 miles per hour at Eaton's Neck, 90 miles per hour at Islip MacArthur Airport. There were 945,000 outages, 90% of Long Island, many lasting for about 2 weeks. All parkways were closed. The Long Island Railroad suspended service. Airports were closed for days, and there were 13 deaths on Long Island.
Knowing there's a hurricane somewhere out there, maybe 2,000 miles away, is one thing, but knowing where it's going, that is the trick. And for many years, people said hurricanes were unpredictable. Not so, not today, not over the last 20 or 25 years, because thanks to satellite images, radar, hurricane reconnaissance aircraft, and especially supercomputers, our forecasts of hurricanes 5 days in the future are now about as accurate as they were 2 days in the future just 20 years ago. That's amazing. And that extra 2 or 3 days of warning can make all the difference on how you handle an approaching and hitting hurricane. But that wasn't the case in 1938 when a Category 3 hurricane hit the island and no one knew it was coming. Forecasters had expected the storm to move out to sea, but it didn't. Instead, it headed right towards Long Island. It's been called the Long Island Express because of how fast it moved, close to 50 miles per hour when it hit the island. In fact, it went from east of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, to Suffolk County in just 8 hours. By early afternoon, winds were howling and ocean water was rising at a furious pace. The center hit near Bellport around 3 p.m. with winds gusting above 120 miles per hour. A 10 to 15-foot storm surge swept homes away in eastern Long Island. Almost every home on Dune Road was destroyed, and there's flooding in the western part of the Sound. Island-wide, there were around 60 deaths caused by the storm. But of course, as history has shown, we don't need a hurricane to produce a lot of flooding.
So we're here with longtime Lindenhurst resident Tim Smith, and Tim has seen his share of weather as a coastal resident, as many have seen here in this area on Long Island. But Tim, over the years, we've seen a lot of changes with how the weather's been kind of affecting your area, particularly your waterway and canal. How have you adapted to this?
Well, the first flooding that I remember was Hurricane Gloria. I think that was back in the 80s. And then in the 90s, we had the perfect storm. And this area in particular was flooded for about a week straight. And ever since then, it's been consistently every year. You get a couple nor'easters come in and the water comes over the dock into the street. And then when Hurricane Sandy came, that's when the real flooding came in and we had 2 feet of water in the house. So this is how I keep track of all of our coastal storms. Here is Sandy, and this is obviously the highest water we've ever had. Down here is Irene from 2011, and this one here is just recent. This is back in January. And then down here are some of the miscellaneous smaller storms. But this seems like to me a good place to keep track of this. Hopefully we never see this level again. So Rich, here's one of the things that I've done to make it a little easier when the flooding comes. I installed a sliding door here to get under my house, and all I do is I put the car real close to the sliding door, and I can come down the steps, open this door from the inside, and get right in my car and drive away. One of the things that is helpful is to have an SUV here and have that extra clearance to get through the water.
Are you prepared if this year we get hit by a hurricane? If the answer is no, now is the time to do it. Don't wait until the wind starts to blow and the tide begins to rise. And know where to get your storm information. Your local towns and counties should be at the top of the list. If a hurricane or tropical storm threatens Long Island, the Suffolk County Office of Emergency Management Operations Center in Yaphank is activated. It becomes the nerve center for government response to the storm. Joseph Cherpiza is the Director of Emergency Preparedness for Suffolk County.
So in the Emergency Operations Center, we coordinate the response to all emergency events. From here, we have all of our planning partners in one location. Our law enforcement support functions, we have our Public Works, Department of Transportation, Health Department on the local, federal, and state levels. Flooding is always a concern with any weather event, especially during hurricanes and tropical storms. We encourage that residents know where they live and know their zone. So we have mapped out on the Suffolk County website, our website, Suffolk County Office of Emergency Management, a know your zone and know your flood zone. On our website, you can enter your address and see if you live in a flood zone and which zone you live in.
In case you do have to evacuate, have a go bag ready with a supply of things you'll need for a few days, including prescription medicines. And don't forget your pets. They need things too. Above all, don't ignore storm warnings.
My greatest fear is that people will not be informed. And those that are informed will not heed our warnings and our recommendations to evacuate or seek shelter.
And so here we are once again on a relatively nice day across the Long Island shoreline here in the Great South Bay. But sooner or later, Bill, the weather's going to change and a big storm could be headed our way.
Historically, that's been the case. It's just a matter of time. Will it be this year, or next year, or 50 years from now? That we don't know, but you have to keep aware of what's going on. Know your trusted sources for information. Very, very important. Newsday, of course, for one. And remember, always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. For Newsday TV, I'm Bill Corbell.
And I'm Rich Von Olin.